Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for your patience. I must apologize. We have a slight delay that we're having here. So I'm just going to apologize for that and ask you to just be patient a little bit. We're going to be starting very, very, very soon. Thank you.
Accessing workers' compensation. Judgment handed down yesterday.
Hi, everyone. All participants. I don't know where I should look. Oh, that way. Hi. So we are having a slight delay, which is a building-based delay. We can't say more right now, so we're just waiting. So if you could please bear with us. I'm so sorry for this delay because we did ask for your time, and I know we're all busy. I will keep updating you, sort of in 10-minute slots, and we will then try very hard not to keep you beyond like 1 o'clock because we did ask for that commitment from you. I will update you again. If you have questions, please ask them in the chat box, and my colleague Kaya will answer you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for your patience. I'm being informed that the speaker is on his way up to the chamber. We'll be starting very, very soon. Thank you so much.
Asithandaze. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of our people. On machtige God, ons bid dat u gedrende on vergaderings ons dien de gewysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou. En dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelela Nkosi ilizwe lethu nabantu balo. Misele Nkosi ukulunga kwiphondo lethu. Nkosi sikelela iAfrika. Gcina abantwana bayo ukhokhele inkokheli zayo. Inike uxolo Nkosi iAfrika. All this we beg in your most holy name. Amen. You may please be seated. Good morning and thank you for joining us here today. Honorable Premier, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Honorable Members of Parliament, and delegates in today's youth dialogue. From the entire province, today we are joined in the little valleys and towns and cities of this beautiful province. From the deep rural, peri-urban, urban, and to the most affluent, to the rich, to the middle class, to the poor, young people are here today, connecting virtually, and some here physically in the city of Cape Town, in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament in Wales Street. I'm saying to all of you, this is an opportunity for young people to engage. And we know that you have all connected with the help of the municipalities in those hybrid centers. And we thank the municipalities for allowing us to partner in this most unique and special way, in order to ensure that we advance democracy, in order to ensure that young people have a voice in the decision-making in our country. And the Western Cape Provincial Parliament is a witness to that, because we had a youth parliament last year and there were resolutions taken. You'll hear more about that as we progress. Let me apologize from the institution. We had a fire drill, which I thought was just a drill, and then it turned out that there was real fire. And it was a heating device that seemed to have activated fire. So you did not run, those who are here in the chamber, that was at your own risk. But we all ran out. And I'm glad that I ran out, because then I was safe in all probabilities of risks. So let us proceed and say that this is an opportunity to continue to engage with stakeholders irrespective of circumstances and the lay of the land. So at this stage, we are going to have the opening remarks from our very own Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Beverly Schaefer. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much. My apologies, Speaker, for not being able to be on the screen, but I'm in an area where there is very little or intermittent internet, so my sincere apologies. A good morning, actually, to everybody, to all our young people of this province. A very, very warm welcome to you. I'm very sorry that we have not been able to do this fully in person, but under the circumstances, as you know, we need to practice safe social distancing. So today is a very important part. We know that we have to get our youth and our young people to have a much greater dialogue around politics, to be able to come from an informed perspective, to be able to get your voices heard. So this morning is your opportunity, and I wish you a fantastic day ahead. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. With those kind remarks in welcoming our young people in today's session. Next time they will see you in person, but they are happy that you are able to speak to them. That's very much beautiful and it's welcome. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Fellow delegates, now you must all, wherever you are, put your hands together for the Honorable, the Premier of the Western Cape, as he gets ready to address us on the provincial update on COVID-19 response in the context of the Western Cape and the work that has been done here to mitigate the risks and to contain the disaster. I now present you the Honorable, the Premier of the Western Cape, and that is Honorable Alan Winde. Honorable Premier, the platform is now yours.
Thank you very much, Speaker and Deputy Speaker. Really good to be with you, and a very warm welcome to the members of Parliament, but specifically a very warm welcome to the members of the youth of our whole province. Thank you very much for joining us, and to the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker for creating this opportunity for us as a youth Parliament to engage. First of all, I want to use this opportunity to say thank you very much to everyone who has played their part in the last 8.5 months in flattening the curve in this province. When we look at a graph of what this virus looks like across the world, in so many countries and in other provinces, the graph looks like a volcano. In our province, it started to climb, but it flattened out. And it flattened out because everyone played their part in making sure that we stopped the spread and slowed the spread of this virus. So first of all, thank you very much to everyone who played their part in making sure that we are slowing the spread. I also want to use this opportunity to let the young people of this province know what happened over the last 8 months. And for me, really exciting to see in government, the innovation that came out, the dedication. We had government officials that were working 24/7. If you think about our front line, first of all, our nurses and our health workers who were out there day and night from the beginning in very difficult circumstances, but out there making sure that we managed to get through this pandemic. And we really thank every single one of them. Then, of course, our teachers, also frontline workers, they were out there as soon as we could get our matrics back in to school. They were making sure that our matrics were in school so that they could get the best opportunity they can in this absolutely crazy year. Not a nice year to be writing your final matric. Then, of course, across the board, our safety officials, whether they be police and law enforcement, and then, of course, just general government workers in our government who were online, who were there day and night to make sure that we had the best response that we could give as a government to the people of this province. And really, I take my hat off and salute every single one of them. They played an amazing part in us flattening that curve. For me, also really interesting was the innovation that came out in the system. So we learned how to build hospitals in 6 weeks. We made those hospitals Wi-Fi connected. We made sure that we delivered medicine. So you can imagine that an elderly person or a person with comorbidities that is queuing at a hospital from early in the morning at a clinic. We all know what that was like. During that, those people were most at risk. And during this time, in partnership with the Gates Foundation, with Uber, and with organizations on the ground, NGOs on the ground, we now deliver medicine to people's doors. And we've delivered over 700,000 medicine parcels across this province. We put a partnership together with the taxi industry. And we made sure that our nurses could get to work safely. You can remember during curfew, it was very difficult for nurses and doctors and healthcare professionals to get to work and back. And then what we did was we partnered with the taxi industry. We created a safe environment so that our health workers and frontline workers were protected, and also the citizens were protected, because you don't want healthcare workers in our public transport system and maybe coming out of a hospital which was at risk and putting citizens at risk. So really an amazing partnership, and more than 110,000 nursing trips during this period. Nurses would book that trip on an app on their phone, be collected at home, dropped at their healthcare facility, and vice versa, going home safely at the end of a day's work. Really amazing, and that's going to influence public transport going forward and our partnership with the taxi industry in a positive way. So really good to see. And so much innovation happened across our province within departments. But I think the next one that I need to highlight is making sure that citizens who were in need got food delivered to them. We partnered with NGOs in the private sector. We delivered more than 15 million meals to citizens across this province, local government, provincial government, national government, and the private sector and NGOs. We continue to feed people at our schools, despite lots of pressure to say no more feeding at schools. We're the only province that went ahead, and more than 8.5 million meals delivered to learners across our school system during this pandemic. We really did go above and beyond, and I think that's why I really have such gratitude for all of the officials in our government. I can spend a lot more time talking about this, but I want to spend the last few minutes that I'm allocated to talk about something else that's much more important. First of all, I want to talk about the recovery. We've got to move into recovery. We've seen during this time that the Gini coefficient has got worse. People have got poorer. So many people have lost their jobs. Unemployment levels have never been this high before. So we really have to get the economy right. And the economy, as far as we are concerned as a provincial government and where we are going to intervene, we've got three key areas of focus. The first is jobs. We've got to get the jobs back that we've lost, and we've got to get new jobs into the system. Because if you want to fix poverty, the only way to fix poverty is to get people into jobs. And so there'll be a big focus. The same as we focused on COVID-19, we're going to focus on the economy and job creation, removing red tape, creating an environment that entrepreneurs can grow their businesses. We've really got to get our jobs back. And so that'll be a big focus going forward for the next few months. At the same time, a big priority of mine and our government's is one of safety. We know that even before this pandemic, it was a big focus of ours. We believe that policing should be decentralized in a province. We believe that provinces should have more say on how policing is deployed. We also know that we have too few police officers, men and women, in our province. And so while we're trying to get that devolution happen, that constitutional change, we also have engaged in making sure that we want to tackle the real crime hotspots of our province. We have more than 4,000 murders in our province every single year. Of those murders, they happen in 50% of them happen in 10 of the 152 police precincts. So if you zoom in and focus on those 10 crime hotspots, we should be able to start to make a dent in the murders, and we need to halve them. So we've already deployed our first 500 officers in conjunction with the City of Cape Town. We're going to be deploying the next 500 law enforcement officers through that partnership, but also much focus in the safety side is also going to be violence prevention. We've got to get ahead of the curve. We've got to focus on young children in the first 1,000 days of their life, because we know that if you give them support at that stage of their life, that means inoculations, adequate nutrition, etc. You set them up for a better future. We need to have programs that get our school children in school safely, at school, but also after school, that you're safe after school, that you don't get pulled into the gangs, that you've got space to do your homework, that you've got nutrition, that you can actually set yourselves up as a learner in our province to enable you for a better future. We've also got to make sure that we have programs that are focusing on gender-based violence, programs that are focusing on boys to men. How do we keep boys out of gangs? How do we give them the skills and enable them to have a positive future? And so these are all in the violence prevention programs, many of them in every single department. They all have violence prevention programs, and this is in the safety component of the recovery mode. And then last of all, it's about dignity and well-being. If you've lost your job and you can't put food on the table, you won't have dignity yourself. How do we make sure that nutrition is looked after in our province where people don't have work and an income? Do we have sufficient nutrition and food? We will continue rolling out our food gardens. We've already delivered more than 2,000 food gardens during the pandemic. These are vegetable gardens in communities at household level. We will continue with, because that's a direct nutrition into your household program. But dignity and well-being cuts across the board. Have we got sanitary pads for young women at school level? So we've already delivered more than 2 million sanitary pads to more than 200 of our schools. And so many of these programs about the safety net and dignity and well-being will be rolling out and focusing over the next 3 months. So it's the 3 focus areas of recovery, jobs, safety, and dignity and well-being. And those are going to be the focus areas of our government going forward. It's the focus areas that the legislature will be holding us to account on. And of course, the role that every single one of us as citizens have to play across this province. And then my last message, and I'm really glad that this is a youth parliament, because I think the youth have a big role to play in continuing to make this province safe when it comes to the growth of numbers of our COVID-19 numbers. At the moment, we have a serious increase of infections in the garden route, so much so that it's been classed as a second wave. We are more than doubling the infections every 7 days. So 1,700 infections 14 days ago, and the last 7 days, we're sitting at nearly 4,000 infections just in that province. I mean, just in that region of the province, the garden route. We also know that specifically we're seeing where young people are maybe getting towards the end of their school year and letting their guard down. And we saw that in the southern suburbs of the city of Cape Town, where nightlife suddenly became the attraction and the guard was let down. And the next thing, a nightclub or a bar becomes a super spreader. And so many people linked in to that nightclub now passed on this virus to family and friends. And this is where I really want young people to get involved, to understanding the responsibility that you have within communities. We know that people are now sick and tired of doing the masks and the hand washing and the keeping the social distancing, but it's imperative that we stick to this. If we look at what's happening in Europe at the moment, they're going into their second lockdowns. Our economy cannot afford it. And just as I need government to be playing their part, I really need that partnership with citizens. And young people have got a big role to play, because it's in the interests of young people that we can grow the economy, that we can create opportunities into the future. Really, we need to be able to have a new normal of dealing with this virus in a responsible way, but at the same time, creating a new way of life, a new way of finding a job, of completing your studies, of going to university, of really creating opportunities for the future. The whole world is faced with this, and if we get it right here in the southern tip of Africa, it actually just puts us in a more competitive space. So really, this is about a partnership, and I really want to employ young people connected here to be those ambassadors who go out to continue with the messaging of let's stay safe in this province, and in doing so, we can then move forward. We can move forward with recovery, and we can move forward with actually building a prosperous province and a prosperous country. So, Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity, and once again for all of the young people in our province for joining us here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Premier, with the comprehensive report. And I can say to the delegates present in this dialogue, we will ensure that you receive the presentation by the Premier so that you are able to interrogate or reflect, even engage further with the Premier himself. Thank you very much, Honorable Premier. We appreciate your engagement here with us. I now recognize the Honorable, the Chief Whip of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, and obviously she was responsible for a committee that we established right at the beginning of lockdown, where we said as Parliament, we're not going to be spectators, but our role would be to monitor, engage, interrogate, and more importantly, to ensure that we're able to conduct our own programs of oversight and holding the executive accountable. And in doing so, it allowed Parliament to remain informed and to remain the Parliament of the people that is able to speak on behalf of us and be able to engage all the reports that come from from government, and of course call on departments to come and engage, and call on the Premier has met with them as well many times. And this is one Parliament that has done this in a way where we had virtual platforms to allow this. It was called a COVID-19 ad hoc committee, but in a virtual way. So they were engaging virtually throughout their meetings, throughout their engagements. Now we have the chair of that committee, who happens to be the Chief Whip, and I now present you the Chief Whip, Honorable Mireille Wenger. Over to you, Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thanks so much for this opportunity to address this youth dialogue on the Provincial Parliament's response to COVID-19. So just let's step back a little bit and look at the trajectory of how we came to be in this situation in the first place. On the 31st of December of 2019, the World Health Organization became aware of a viral pneumonia in Wuhan in the People's Republic of China. The disease caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus is now globally known as COVID-19, or the coronavirus disease. It is an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered coronavirus, and it's spread through droplets spread by infected individuals. COVID-19 has a broad clinical spectrum ranging from asymptomatic individuals or infection to mild upper respiratory tract illnesses to pneumonia, respiratory failure, and even death. To date globally, when I looked at the figures earlier this week, around the world, there are just under 56 million confirmed cases, 1.4 million deaths, and almost 39 million recoveries around the world from COVID-19. The trajectory of this virus in South Africa started on the 5th of March. Excuse me. The National Institute for Communicable Diseases, or the NICD, confirmed the first COVID-19 case in South Africa on the 5th of March. Less than a week later, on the 11th of March, the National Health Minister, Zweli Mkhize, announced the first laboratory confirmed case of COVID-19 in our province in the Western Cape. On the same day, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 as a global pandemic. A few days later, on the 15th of March, President Cyril Ramaphosa declared a national state of disaster to integrate and coordinate disaster management to prevent and reduce the spread of this disease. On the 23rd of March, the President announced that South Africa would be placed under a nationwide hard lockdown. We know it as level 5 lockdown, which was in place between the 26th of March and the 30th of April. South Africans were legally bound to stay at home during this time, and even our borders were closed. Exceptions were only permitted for people to leave their home, which was limited to essential services, either performing an essential service, getting an essential service like food, or receiving it, and for emergency and chronic medical attention. We will remember that grocery stores, pharmacies, banks, and other essential services were open, but other retail shops and malls were closed unless essential goods were sold, and we still have controls in place to ensure safe distancing and hygiene conditions. But just 2 weeks into this unprecedented hard lockdown, the Provincial Parliament of the Western Cape was already at work. Whereas some might have seen the COVID-19 pandemic as a break for politicians and for parliamentary work, the Western Cape Provincial Parliament regarded it as anything but this. Instead, the nationwide lockdown proved to be a moment for us at the WCPP to step up and go virtual. As you can see, we're continuing with those virtual innovations today through this youth parliament. But it was the pandemic that helped us to set new standards and to lead the way to embrace technology with innovation and creativity. On the 14th of April, the Speaker of the Provincial Parliament constituted the first Oversight Committee in South Africa to monitor, receive briefings, and engage government representatives on their response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so the ad hoc committee was born, and it continues to meet regularly as a recognized and properly constituted committee of this legislature. The committee consists of 15 members appointed on a proportional basis and represents 6 out of the 7 political parties represented in this parliament. So our first order of business was to devise themes through which we would engage government. And the themes relating to the COVID-19 pandemic were intended to be in the areas that impact the lives of people the most. So the 12 themes that we centered our work around included the health department's responses and preparations, policing, security and police brutality, food security, protection of the vulnerable, disaster management and local government oversight, economic recovery, economic support and livelihoods, transport and infrastructure, schooling and education, human settlements, citizen surveillance, intergovernmental relations and community cooperation, and finally, government finance and budgets. So through the structured approach, the committee was given the necessary teeth to really unpack the impact of COVID-19 on our province, inviting and questioning some of the most important national and provincial departments, entities, and role players. Only 5 days after the committee was instituted, we had already had a briefing by the Premier, the Provincial Minister of Health, as well as officials from the Western Cape government. We had many opportunities to scrutinize the work of government and ask some of the most important questions. And this mechanism continues to enable members to report back to their constituents across the length and the breadth of our province. Using Microsoft Teams, the Provincial Parliament remains open and accessible to all, also through the use of the YouTube channel. So the public and the media and other interested parties are able to easily access all our virtual sittings, not only of the COVID-19 ad hoc committee, but all committees of the Provincial Parliament and sittings of our House. The parliamentary program has been in full swing throughout the differing levels of the lockdown. So for us, during the pandemic, it has indeed been business as usual, although in an unusual environment and time. The times are changing, and the Provincial Parliament has stepped forward to join ranks as a world leader in virtual parliament. Virtual parliamentary activity with public access is a landmark for democracies during this time, and one which we can claim to attain. Globally, other parliaments and legislative bodies were much slower to act. In most instances, parliamentary activities either were suspended or their meetings were reduced to in-person sessions with social distancing. Elsewhere, it was only Estonia's National Assembly that managed to achieve live broadcasts and remote attendance by its members. So similar to us in the Western Cape, New Zealand's Parliament held virtual committee meetings during lockdown. However, New Zealand did not have full sittings of the House during their hard lockdown. Canada recommenced its parliamentary sittings in April by virtual means, further following the slow but steady trend for parliaments to move online. And the United States Senate resumed its work only later after 5 weeks of absence. And on the African continent, both Nigeria and Kenya's national legislative bodies continued with in-person sessions with social distancing protocols in place. So beyond meetings of the COVID-19 ad hoc committee and other standing committees, the Western Cape Provincial Parliament is amongst the first in the world to hold a virtual full sitting of the House with public access in real time. On the 23rd of April, we made history as we gathered online for a full sitting of questions to the Premier without notice. The sitting allowed for members to provide statements and directly interact with the Premier on the role of the provincial government responding to the pandemic, amongst other interrelated issues. We've had our fair share of glitches and awkward moments. We've seen interesting visual backgrounds, confusion over who is on, members making profound speeches while being on mute, or giving us a bit too much of a glimpse of their oversubscribed bookshelves at home. But nevertheless, we continue to adapt to the times and we are sobered by the fact that COVID-19 will be with us for a while still. At the same time, we are cognizant of our role as parliamentarians and our duty to oversee the work of government, especially at a pivotal moment in history such as this. So it is a concerted effort which requires deep commitment to the values of constitutional democracy and requires a willingness to become creative through technology and use resources we have at hand to show and demonstrate transparency to residents. Over the last 9 months, we've had every single provincial government department appear before the ad hoc committee, as well as regular briefings from the health department as the pandemic has developed in our province. We looked at COVID through a holistic lens and wanted to be sure that government was doing its level best during these difficult times. We looked into everything from oxygen supplies in the province to bereavement counselling to the informal economy. We checked that we had sufficient food supply from farms during the lockdown and why the price of eggs increased, to feeding schemes for children and the provision of PPE for nurses. We took on SASSA and the UIF for closed offices and the police for heavy-handedness. And we learned about how long COVID-19 can survive on different services and how the lockdown reduced pollution levels. We saw the building and the use and the closure of the CTICC Hospital of Hope, and we interrogated budgets and how much all of this was costing. But we didn't just hear from government. No, we listened to citizens of this province and we spoke to survivors of COVID-19. We heard from NGOs in the private sector, from business chambers, from unions, from school governing bodies, to understand people's lived experiences. We asked members of the public to tell us what they thought of government's response. Were schools and public transport safe? Do people know why they should wear a mask? Well, 17,000 people responded. All in all, the province has weathered the peak of infections and the health system managed high infections and hospitalizations without being overwhelmed. And by all accounts, the Western Cape is faring well during these trying times. As the Premier mentioned, state-of-the-art hospitals were built, which were recognized by leading epidemiologists as success stories of effective leadership. There were also medical innovations that arose out of the pandemic. For example, the Diabetic Project run by the Western Cape Department of Health, which reduced the mortality rate amongst diabetics from 28% to just 4.5%. In addition, the Western Cape government, in conjunction with the City of Cape Town and other partners, has developed systems to monitor COVID-19 outbreaks through screening wastewater. So in conclusion, across South Africa and the Western Cape, COVID-19 is arguably the greatest challenge we have endured in our lifetimes. The pandemic has had widespread effects on every aspect of our lives, our health, the education of our children, our businesses and finance, our mental well-being, our futures, and on government at all levels. Every resource at our disposal has and must continue to be combined and concentrated to achieve safety for both our lives and our livelihoods. The task may seem unsurmountable, but we are resilient as South Africans. Our thanks could never adequately express the deep gratitude we hold towards the thousands of healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, government officials, and civil society members that work and continue to work so hard to ensure our survival. The pandemic is very much still with us, and so our work as Parliament in response to the COVID-19 pandemic is by no means done. And so we continue diligently in the public interest. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chief Whip, and in this case, the chairperson of our ad hoc committee on COVID-19 as the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. And thank you for your very articulate and of course very informative sharing of that information, and of course the depth of the information provided. All of that must be shared and will be shared with the delegates that are present in this session. And I just want to say, as a matter of course, and also for process's sake, there has been a question whether there will be a question opportunity. There will not be an opportunity for questions. This is a dialogue, so when the young people are responding, you can respond to the statements or you can flag a certain areas. It's your dialogue. Don't make it politicians' dialogue. It's your dialogue. But we ask politicians to come and present in order to share knowledge and the work that has been done in the period of COVID-19 lockdown, and more specifically to the details of the interventions by the Western Cape government in this case, and this parliament, of course. Hence, our chairperson just shared with you on the work that we did as parliament, because we did not fold our arms. We did not sit here and say, no, we pray that it's going to end by itself. We did something, and that is what is important here. Now, we've got a number of topics. Topic 1, topic number 2, and these 2 topics will be introduced by the honorable members.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for recognizing me, Mr. Speaker.
I have not recognized you yet. Is that a point of order, or is it a point of statement, or you want to? What is it that you want to bring it to my attention?
Mr. Speaker, it's a point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I think it is just good manners for us to first introduce ourselves, because this is my first time with this network in this parliament, Mr. Speaker. So there was no introduction from whoever. I think if that is still in the program, Mr. Speaker, then I apologize.
That is not a point of order, and I'm going to rule you out of order. We are still with the program, and the youth are on the program, and they will speak and they will be introduced. Please take your seat, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Distinguished delegates and respective honorable members present, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to request the honorable members who will be introducing topic 1. Topic 1 is the impact of COVID-19 on the work of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, why the role that the WCPP plays, oversight and accountability, why does it need to continue even during a national state of disaster? So that they will talking about the essence of the importance of ensuring that we don't close down as parliament, even when there's disasters. And I'm going to now, at this stage, recognize Honorable, the Deputy Chief Whip, it's Honorable Bosman first from the Democratic Alliance. And then the next speaker will be Honorable, the Deputy Chief Whip of the ANC, which is Honorable Said. But now I recognize Honorable Bosman from the DA. Your platform is now yours, sir.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and good afternoon to all the delegates joining us today for this very important youth dialogue. Speaker, I present my contribution to this youth dialogue today with the classic political assertion that if power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. This during a time where people felt increasingly powerless against the deadly coronavirus. It was imperative that as the voice of the people, we find ways to put power back in the hands of the people. As Honourable Wenger mentioned, here in the Western Cape, we broke new ground with the introduction of South Africa's first virtual parliament, where we used our ability to listen to the people of the Western Cape and uncovered the challenges the people faced, and we placed government in a position to respond effectively to the oversight of Parliament, thus ensuring the expectations of the people are met by the executive. Through our ongoing standing committee meetings, members of the social cluster had uncovered that nearly half the COVID-19 relief of distress grant funding applications to SASSA have been declined, which had to be and continues to be the only form of income for many people in this country. We used our roles as members of Parliament and we monitored whether the Department of Education had enough space for schools to open in a safe and effective manner, and we also kept an eagle eye on the capacity of the health system in the Western Cape. Youth unemployment, Mr. Speaker, as we know it, has been a ticking time bomb on its own for years before COVID wreaked havoc and caused the second pandemic of poverty and unemployment. Through debating economic recovery plans involving private and public sectors alike, it is important that we, as members of Parliament, advocate for an economic climate that is suitable to creating jobs and restoring dignity, with COVID-19 in our midst and beyond. Over 100,000 matriculants in this province are currently sitting for their exams, and they will be in need of some meaningful jobs when they leave the schooling system. But the reality is that they will join a long queue of unemployed youth who have been searching for years, and Parliament plays an important role in making sure that economic opportunities exist. The decisions we make in this legislature, the laws and policies that are tabled, and the oversight that is performed deeply affects the way every resident in this province lives. It is critical that we undertake our mandate in a way in which ensures accountability to those who we've asked to lend us their votes. Pretoria, where our national government sits, we've seen the brazen theft of the much needed billions that have been taken out of the mouths of the most vulnerable and put in the pockets of political elites. And Parliament plays an important role in making sure that this doesn't lead to what my statement said earlier, where power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We thus find ourselves in a country where the very funds that have been set aside for crisis management were stolen by comrades, the net effect being that power continues to be abused and the foundations of our democracy chipped away under the extension of the state of the disaster on a month-to-month basis. Speaker, it is evident that without the continued role that Parliament plays in oversight and accountability, we are unable to transfer power back to the people. This is the cornerstone of democracy and the way in which we empower and build a capable state and nation. We commend the participation of young people in this dialogue as it further strengthens the role of Parliament. And on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I wish them well in their deliberations. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Bosman. I was about to say your time is up, but it's clear that you are an honorable member, sir. May I now, at this stage, recognize the Deputy Chief Whip of the African National Congress, Honorable Said.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And firstly, I would like to thank the Western Cape Provincial Legislature and the staff under the leadership of the Honorable Speaker, Masizole Mkasela, for putting together this crucial youth dialogue. As a young person myself and as a leader of a youth structure in the province, it is important to acknowledge when our public institutions try to communicate with us as young people, and when institutions such as the Provincial Parliament want to elicit our ideas as young people. So I speak today as a young person and as a member of the Western Cape Provincial Legislature. Secondly, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our young leaders, our thought leaders, our activists from across the province. Your decision to take part in this crucial dialogue bears testimony to your commitment to building a better future for our province and country. The Western Cape is in safe hands. I was asked to speak on the work of the Parliament or the legislature and the importance of parliamentary oversight during a disaster such as COVID-19. But before I do so, I thought it would be helpful to remind us that a parliament in most places of the world has three functions. Number one, to make laws. Number two, to pass budgets so that government can do its work, even though some will argue that even passing the budget is part of making laws. And thirdly, to give oversight. Oversight means holding the government accountable on how the government, and in this case, the provincial government of the Western Cape, uses that money, the taxpayers' money, through the budget, and holding them to account based on the laws of the country, based on the constitution of the Western Cape, and on the budget that we as the legislature collectively agreed to after much debate. And so because my time is limited, I've been given 3 minutes, I want to draw the attention of the participants to just two aspects of oversight that I found as a member of the provincial legislature during the national disaster of COVID-19. And it's my first term as a member of this particular legislature or as a public representative. Number one, oversight on issues. We had and continue to play an important role in making sure that the government remains focused on what the real issues are that are affecting our people, and young people in particular. Too often we can become sidetracked, not that a disaster is not important, but by a disaster with different people worrying about different things. But to keep the government focused on the real issues, we had to, despite the challenges of face masks, social distancing.
Honorable Said,
Yes.
your time is up.
Oh,
I was trying to give you grace, but I can't.
No, that's fine. I will share my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
appreciate that. Thank you, sir. To the honorable delegates, let me say why it is important that we manage time. The honorable members, they sit in this house, they debate and box among themselves. So what I wanted them to do is to introduce the topics, which I think they've rightfully done. And I'm grateful that we have agreed to do this, Honorable Said, and to Honorable Bosman. Thank you very much, and I hope you will remain for the duration of the session. And now there will be inputs. The delegate that was asking a question earlier or drawing attention to the issue of credentials, and now this is an opportunity now. Remember, Parliament is a place of processes and it's a place of order. So at this stage, I introduce delegates to you because they are going to address us. It's not about us as members of Parliament, but it's about young people of this province. So from the Metro, the representatives from the Metro, which is the city of Cape Town, Ms. Lindy Wentuli from Bonani Contents, Marketing and Publishing Startup. So they will give inputs on topic one. So I'm just introducing you for now, ma'am. And then the other representative from the Cape Winelands will be Mr. Nyameko Kadu, student at Zoletemba High School in Brede Valley. And then the third one will be a representative from the Central Karoo, and that is Pebalu Hector. It's a very interesting name. Pebalu Hector. I almost said Babalo. You must tell me. Pabalo. Thank you very much. I've just been assisted here. I was using the English language, Pebalu. I'm told it's Pabalo, which is P-A-B-A-L-L-O. Now, at this stage, we're going to go straight to these delegates, and I now recognize Ms. Lindy Wentuli, and your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity and allowing us to engage you today. We're really grateful for that. So I think today my passion that I like to talk about is education. That's the first one, because it has empowered me as a young person in SA. I think COVID showed us that technology was not the problem, but our mindset was the issue. And so we realized that when we went on lockdown, campuses closed down. Students didn't have access to data, didn't have access to libraries, because everything shut down. And so I realized that we need less of motivational talks, and more of resources. And you might ask yourself, where are these resources going to come from? Well, the first place is the libraries, the public libraries that are around us. I've noticed that a lot of people do not go to libraries anymore. So I would like to plead with the Parliament to consider turning libraries into technology-orientated centres and study centres for students who may be in surrounding areas that don't have access to data, that don't have access to information, and so forth. So, and I'd like to also plead that you maybe collaborate with corporate companies to sponsor devices to the libraries instead of sponsoring individuals, because most of the time the devices are most likely to be stolen or to get lost, or they might just abuse the free devices. The second part is about churches. I would like to plead the government to open churches to a full capacity. COVID-19 has been a horrible experience for all of us. We felt lonely, we felt depressed, the number of gender-based violence increased in the country, and we didn't have a lot of support. We felt isolated. And the only place that provided support was churches. So I would like to plead with you to continue backing up the church, to continue supporting the church, because that's where we found our hope for the world. That's where we feel safe. That's where we feel loved and taken care of. And that's where we feel empowered as well to go out there and know that we can also one day sit where you are sitting and do what you were doing. I mean, government changes legislation, businesses change economies, but the churches changes hearts and provides a hope for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nduli. It's clear that you'll make a great member of parliament because I don't have to ask you to sit down. Thank you. Thank you. May I then at this stage, may we please mute any other device? Okay. May at this stage I recognize Mr. Nyameko Kadu from the Cape Winelands. Let me tell you where the Cape Winelands is, because if you live in the metro and you hear all of these names, you will not know exactly where these places are. The Cape Winelands is an area that includes your Witzenberg municipality, Drakenstein municipality, Bredevalle municipality, Langeberg municipality, and Stellenbosch municipality. If you listen to that, that is 5 that I've mentioned. But he comes from, Mr. Nyameko Kadu comes from one of the 5, and that is in the Bredevalle, and that's areas of Worcester, the Torrens, Rossendale. Now, then your time begins now, your 3 minutes, and welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for recognizing me.
Okay. Uxolo kakhulu. Sorry, Mr. Kadu. I don't know what could be happening there.
Oh, I'm experiencing connection challenges, Honorable Speaker, but everything is fine.
Now we can hear you. Now you're fine.
Okay, now I'm fine, Honorable Speaker. The head of government made a declaration of a national state of disaster in order that government may have a workable plan to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Members of parliament were required to work within their communities across the country. There needed to be legislation put in place for the prevention of the spread of COVID-19. The reason they had to pass laws was to avoid anarchy and chaos. This included things like business exploitation, police brutality, eviction of tenants, and corruption. Gender-based violence also increased greatly because women were confined with their abusers. Parliament plays an important role in seeing to it that funds are being allocated for relief and purchase of PPEs is accomplished. Businesses are also given funds for the loss of profit due to COVID-19. It is then their duty to hold the executive accountable. The role that Parliament plays is of utmost importance in oversight and accountability. Hence the need for it to continue even during a national state of disaster. A national state of disaster is an extraordinary measure involving matters of life and death within a country. It is then the executive's responsibility to ensure that it safeguards the rights of individuals during these difficult times, and for Parliament to oversee the delivery of services needed to relieve the burden of the COVID-19 pandemic on the public. My advice is that The executive must remain with the responsibility to deliver much needed services to save the lives of individuals. Furthermore, accountability for the delivery of services must be requested from all spheres of government stakeholders, including the community and business sectors. As an economy, we have run at a great loss of pertaining money. To agree with the Honorable Bosman, part of our government has not made it easier with the misuse of power. Although the focuses of government that was mentioned by the Premier, Mr. Allen Winde, puts this worry at ease. To mention one focus on job creation. This will greatly benefit the economy and the livelihoods of the citizens of South Africa. To add to what my sister, Ms. Lindiwe Nduli said, we needed emotional and spirit support. This is still a good major need. I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nduli. It's interesting that you kept your 3 minutes to the T. I'm impressed. That also indicates that. That also indicates that you're coming here. You're coming into this. May I please at this stage? Thank you very much. May I now at this stage call upon the representative from the Central Karoo, Pabalo Hector. Central Karoo has 3 municipalities. That is Beaufort West, which is the bigger municipality in that region. And there's also Prince Albert municipality, as well as Lanesburg municipality. I won't give you the names of the smaller towns because, for instance, in Prince Albert, there's only 4,000 voters. So it gives you an idea, but it's vast and it's rural. Now we welcome Pablo Hector. Your 3 minutes starts now.
First and foremost, I would like to thank the opportunity given by the Speaker. The role that Parliament plays is an important one, and definitely it needed to continue even during the national state of disaster. I have heard and noted what the Western Cape government has done during this time, but unfortunately, I feel and I believe that a lot of young people in my region would agree with what I have to say. There was little to none oversight, and we yet have to see accountability. After the national state of disaster was declared on the 16th of March, relief funds were made available, but the young people received no share of this fund, as 350 does not even cover basic needs. Some young people lost their businesses and their jobs. Because some of these businesses are actually informal due to red tapes and couldn't receive any funds that were made available. I could mention a lot of things, but I would rather like to ask this question: what does Parliament exercise? How does Parliament exercise the Batupili principles, as service delivery has been as its poorest during this time? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Hector. Babalo Hector. Thank you very much for your time and also for the issues that you flagged. I said earlier on that the respective speakers, for instance, the Premier and the Chairperson of the Ad hoc Committee from Parliament, those speeches that they made will be shared with us, but I will say a lot more at the end, towards the end of the program. So thank you very much. Now we move to a comfort break, just to get a comfort break, and then we'll then immediately go to topic number 2. I'll give you just 7 minutes, if you don't mind, because we lost a bit of time earlier, so we need to catch up. We'll come back. The time is now 12:24. Yeah, let's come back as soon as possible. So 7 minutes from now. Thank you. You may all be seated. All right. It has just been brought to my attention that Honorable Murray from the Freedom Front Plus is not on the platform. He made a commitment that he would join us virtually.
I am
He
your
does, however,
speaker.
appear.
I
Oh,
am here.
there is his voice. Welcome, welcome, Honorable Murray.
I have permission to start,
Ek is baie dankbaar dat hier is. So now we're going to proceed with topic number 2. Topic number 2 is how can the Western Cape Provincial Parliament ensure that young people and their challenges find expression in the provincial parliament during and post-COVID-19, and how the Western Cape Provincial Parliament can best engage with young people in the Western Cape. Now I recognize Honorable Murray to introduce the topic, and after Honorable Murray, we'll have Honorable Brencase from Al-Jamal, and thereafter we'll have Honorable Member Heron from the Good Party. Now I recognize Honorable Murray.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, Premier, young people of the Western Cape, honorable members. Today I speak not as a politician. I speak as a grandfather of 13 children and a great-grandfather of 9. I'm deeply concerned about the future of our youth. For almost 20 years, the Western Cape government, under the DA, has failed the youth by neglecting to appoint a youth commissioner. I still question the wisdom of this decision, the reasons, and such procrastination and negligence. A children's commission was only appointed in the Western Cape on the 1st June 2020. Why the serious neglect? We have failed the youth. Talking creates expectations, but good budgeting and finance solve problems. I'm hopeful that Commissioner Nondu will develop a turnaround strategy with regard to unemployment amongst the youth and the issue of absentee fathers and fatherless families. They must do this in conjunction with the Departments of Social Services and Health and Education. I look forward to her recommendations in this regard. Although youth unemployment in the Western Cape is at its lowest in the country, we are not effective in combating gangsterism, moral decline, and delinquency amongst our youth. We need to create a Western Cape Unemployment Bureau that will have a database of unemployed youth who are in search of employment. We need to ensure that they have an open line of communication with employers via such a bureau financed by the Western Cape Parliament so that they can find jobs and job opportunities are made available to them. We cannot allow a 50% school dropout and turn a blind eye to the socio-economic hardships the youth are facing, aggravated by COVID-19. Psychosocial support by qualified persons should be offered at community level to help reduce the high level of suicide amongst our young people, especially those who didn't pass grade 12 at school. Many youth entrepreneurs should receive training and financial support to start small businesses, and unnecessary red tape preventing financial assistances to the youth should be scrapped. Race should be scrapped also as a criteria for employment. Our youth love music. They love dancing. Why don't we hear the Cape music anymore? Let us bring back the music of the Cape to the Cape. Allow young talented youths to display their musical skills. Upgrade the Joseph Stone Auditorium in Athlone and allow those youth who are passionate about music and art to give expression to their talent on a government-sponsored YouTube channel. Let us generate income on these platforms and plow back to empower our youth. We dare not fail them, for without a highly motivated...
Thank you, Honorable Murray. Your time is up.
Thank you, sir. And that's why if my time is up, I step down. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Murray. I appreciate that. And baie dankie for your contribution. And now, fellow delegates, honorable members, we recognize Honorable Member Brancase. Your time is now, sir. You may begin. It's 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and good day to everybody. Speaker, the commitment of the Western Cape Parliament to the creation and resilience of the youth structures is an indicator of Provincial Parliament awakening to the realization of more than 350 years of the struggle for justice. Eva Krotoa was a youth when this country was first occupied in 1652. Her story is both an inspiration as she and many other youths who were slaves lived in the world of colonizers, and is also a tragedy of what befalls a colonized people. The Provincial Parliament can decide. Yes, the Provincial Parliament can decide how it will remember to pay tribute to Krotoa, a youth who also ended up on Robben Island. Youth unemployment, poor schooling outcomes, and living with gangsterism and drugs are but a few of the challenges that this Parliament has failed to address for the past 25 years. The youth of 1976 and the 1980s started the end of the apartheid regime. It is a shame that this Parliament has not done that it could for the youth, especially those youth in the townships and the rural areas. I thank you, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Brancase, for your time and for the contribution. I now recognize Honorable Member Heron. Your time starts now, sir.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the question on how young people's challenges can find expression in the Provincial Parliament is an important one, not just post-COVID-19, but as a matter of intergenerational justice. Future generations should have some say in the decisions we make, since it is their future that is at stake. And our young generation is most affected by today's decisions in the long run, but their voice is largely underrepresented in the decision-making process. Our society is grappling with and beset with significant challenges that will have a direct impact on future generations. And these lie at the heart of intergenerational justice. Young people should be able to influence how we respond to these challenges, not just at a dialogue or on Youth Day, but in a structured, inclusive, and formally recognized way. Speaker, I propose that we establish a youth parliament for the Western Cape with delegates representing future generations from across the province, and that this youth parliament should engage with intergenerational justice issues such as climate change and protection of our natural environment, education, the right to work, the right to basic income, social conflict. These deliberations should be heard and considered by our standing committees and by our Parliament. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Heron, for your contribution. We are now going to go to young people who are going to be speaking, and each for a maximum of not more than 3 minutes. The first contribution is by representative from the Garden Route district. The Garden Route is George, Neisner, Bito, Otsoren, Kanaland, Mossel Bay, and Hesekwa municipality. So that's 7. That's the biggest that you find in the province. So may I then request Ms. Jalasa Bolzman to speak to us. She's the junior speaker of George Junior City Council, and that is my equal in George. So this is a speaker of young people in the Junior Council in George. We recognize you, ma'am, and your time starts now.
Good afternoon, Honorable Speaker, honorable members, and fellow delegates. My name is Jalasa Bosman, and I'm here to represent the City of George in the Garden Route. The youth is among the most active in global responses. Not only are they front lines as health workers, but also advancing in health and safety roles, such as researchers, activists, innovators, and communicators. As such, decision makers must ensure and commit that the youth's voices are part of the solution for a better and safer South Africa. Thus, I thank you for giving us all this opportunity to make sure that our voices and concerns are heard and to hopefully find solutions for our concerns. The disproportionate effect of the pandemic on our young people has exacerbated inequalities and risks, reducing a productive potential of an entire generation. Not too long ago, the University of Cape Town, also known as UCT, has conducted a survey among young people varying from the ages of 18 to 34. The results have shown that over 60% of our youth are concerned and worried about their future. There seems to be a disconnect between the people, and frustration increases with the inability to plan ahead. According to statistics, there is a great unemployment figure in our youth. To be more specific, 58% of our youth varying from the ages of 16 to 27 are unemployed. Quarantine has either been good or bad for our mental health. Good mental health is the basis of success and unity within our communities. To engage better with the youth, the Western Cape Provincial Parliament can create a place for people that can't afford to go to specialists, such as psychiatrists, and campaign mental wellness centers. For many schools, it was difficult to communicate with their pupils as many people did not have access to internet. Technology has taken over our world, so I suggest that we can try to budget to get the correct sources for education. During the lockdown period, some universities and tertiary institutions have provided their students with Wi-Fi modems to strictly do their work, and I suggest that our government officials can bring that system into schools. There should be more communication platforms for the youth to engage better with our law officials. We could have opportunities like these, but on a much larger scale so that everybody's voices and opinions are heard. We are the leaders of today and tomorrow, and I believe that we can change this world. Change is brought about if we look for change, hope for change, and if we are the change. To conclude, I'll leave you with this quote from Barack Obama, who did not come to this world to fear the future, but rather we came to this world to shape it. I'll say it again. We did not come to this world to fear the future. Rather, we came to this world to shape it.
Madam Speaker, your time is up. Baya danke. Well done. Thank you. Now I recognize a representative from the Overberg district. And the Overberg district is the Tierwaterskloof municipality, Overstrand municipality, Swellendam municipality, and Cape Akalas municipality. This particular representative is from Overstrand municipality, and that is from the Grootbos Foundation. I now recognize Ms. Thuli Martins. Your time starts now, ma'am. 3 minutes.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I would like to start by thanking the Parliament for this opportunity. And it is also only correct that I start by acknowledging that this dialogue today is the first and crucial step towards addressing and engaging youth challenges. The youth is rapidly becoming the majority in the country, and it is vital then that we participate in legislative processes such as the Green Paper, where we can highlight issues that affect us directly in our communities. And also, with COVID-19, we saw a lot of distress. We're seeing a lot of distress amongst youth. We're growing depressed as a youth, and this needs attention in the sense that the government, the Parliament needs to come together with local NGOs, municipalities, and the work that we do here, and support that work through bringing together a committee of young people that can speak on youth challenges from their own perspectives in their own small towns and small villages, as we are made up here in the Oudberg. It's a collective of small town villages, and if we can have the Parliament appoint delegates that will consistently keep up to date with youth, such as in this platform, and consistently keep up to date with the progress of youth development projects in these in our towns, because we find that youth are not encouraged to become entrepreneurs. They don't feel motivated to become entrepreneurs, and this is a problem, because we can't promise any more jobs to youth. And it also should be that political parties, when campaigning, they should not be promising jobs anymore, but rather what we should be focusing on is encouraging our young people to become entrepreneurs and rather create jobs, and so that we have a future generation that will employ our coming children from our primary schools and high schools and universities. And then we also have ECDs, early childhood development, needs attention now, because these are future leaders of South Africa. And if we don't give them the right resources, as we don't have the resources as youth ourselves, ECDs also don't have resources to improve and empower themselves. We need the Parliament to recognize that ECDs need attention, and legislation needs to minimize the process of registrations for early childhood development centers, because this slows down the progress in the center. The teachers, they cannot get the development that they need and the support that they need in terms of skills development for our young, growing, enthusiastic entrepreneurs and future leaders. And we need these programs to be in place so that we can have a more focused and more collective collaboration of work.
Thank you, Ms. Martins. We appreciate your contribution. Your time is unfortunately up, but thank you very much for your passionate presentation there. Now we move over to the final inputs on topic 1 and 2. That is the representative from the West Coast, Ms. Chanel de Villiers, a junior speaker of Saldanha Youth Council. And the next one will be a representative from the Cape Metro, which is the city of Cape Town. That is Alexandria Proctor, who is the CEO of Digs Connect e-commerce, so that's the name. And then the rest of the representatives. So we'll get to them as we go on. I now recognize Ms. Chanel de Villiers from the West Coast. Let me just say, the West Coast has Cederberg right at the end before you leave the Western Cape. As you move towards the Northern Cape, that is the last municipality. and that is Cederberg, and then you've got Bergrivier, you've got Matsikama, then you've got Swartland, and you've got Saldanha. So that is what the West Coast District municipal area is, but this delegate is from Saldanha Bay, and this is the Speaker of the Junior City Council. Over to you, Chanel, and you've got 3 minutes, Ms. de Villiers.
Thank you, Speaker. Before I start, I would like to firstly adhere to protocol. Honorable Speaker Masizole, Honorable Deputy Speaker Schaefer, Honorable Premier Ellen Windy, Honorable Wenger, all members of the Provincial Parliament, and to my fellow youth delegates, good day and all protocols observed. Honorable Speaker, as we saw, this question is a two-part question, and I would like by starting to answer the first part first. That goes about the challenges and outcries of the youth that should be heard. We are all well known with the saying that says communication is key. The best way to reach out is communication. As mentioned, I am representing the Saldanha municipal area, and that's why I have chosen to focus on the following two topics. Number one, which Honorable Premier touched on, is our matric pass rate in 2017. Our matric pass rate in 2017 was 24%, which made it the second lowest pass rate in our district. And this is not something to be proud of. In today's society, without any education, it's difficult to cope. And if this don't pick up, our economy is going to suffer a great deal. How can anyone go into any economical market to make a difference without any education? I'm going to leave that thought on the table. Another big issue in my area is teenage pregnancy. According to statistics stated in the IOL news in the week in August in 2018, the 5th of November, it was said that 11% of all babies born were birthed by women between the ages of 10 to 19. And 1,287 of these women was between the ages of 10 to 14. And what makes this even more sad is that the lady would be between the ages of 10 to 14, but the men will be between the ages of 17 to 25. This is disturbing, and that's why I feel that the Provincial Parliament should host more of these dialogues in order for them to stay informed, as well as staying in contact with the local municipalities so that they can be aware of what's happening in the young ones' lives. Finding a way to include youth in the decisions and discussions is also a great way to go about. Coming to the second part of the question on how to engage with the youth, I have many ideas. But one idea that I do think would work is if there can be a WhatsApp youth hotline. Why? Because this is affordable. And on this hotline, we can do such stuff as youth surveys and send around info. The VCPP can also engage through school and community awareness programs. But one thing that I think would work amazing is that if the VCPP can host open days for the youth to be more involved. And with this, Speaker, I do thank you for the opportunity, and I really hope that I can help make a change in our area and in our district. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Villiers. I've just written something in the chat box, in the chat box, because I'm not too sure whether the delegates that are connecting virtually are aware, but you're not being seen. You got a half of your face into the screen and the top half of the face out of the screen. Therefore, we are unable to even greet you when we see you in the street. So I'm requesting that we try and work on that. It's a technical glitch that can be sorted out either by adjusting your seating or if you are in a standing platform, but just just sort that out. So thank you very much, Ms. Villiers. Now I recognize a representative from the City of Cape Town, and that is Alexandria Proctor. Over to you now, and your time starts now. 3 minutes, ma'am. Thank you.
Good afternoon, speakers, and to the floor at large. My name is Alexandria Proctor, and I am the CEO and co-founder of DigsConnect.com. We are the largest student accommodation platform in South Africa. And I'm here to talk to you about enabling the enablers. So the world is pretty terrifying right now. As I was writing this speech, it was 3 a.m. in Cape Town, and the city had just been hit by an earthquake. It was a small one, sure, but enough to wake up the city. Our entire planet is dealing with a pandemic about which there's hugely conflicting opinions and very little certainty. And in South Africa, our economy is, to put it lightly, in tatters. Youth unemployment is between 34 and 55%. Our current situation is scary. But it is not in our nature as humans, and it is not in our nature as South Africans to be victims. We're a nation of builders, creators, protesters, troublemakers, and hustlers. Given the chance and the opportunity, we will build this rainbow nation. We are the enablers that will rebuild this economy. We don't need handouts. We just need the opportunity. So what does this mean from government? First, it means you have to stop pulling the rug out from under our feet. Our country simply cannot go into another lockdown. We cannot. The members of this assembly must resist any attempt by the executive to shut this country down again. The state of emergency must come to an end. The world is terrifying now, and all we have as the youth of South Africa is our hope and faith in the future, in bettering ourselves and the state of our nation by pursuing an education, a first job, building a company, or following a dream. But every time our freedoms are curtailed by lockdowns and the accompanying economic vulnerability, this government keeps stopping the youth of this country, province, and city from accessing these opportunities and essentially robbing us of that future. Let us thrive, and we will. Let us soar, and we will. Protect our hard-won freedoms and the chance to build a better life for ourselves. Secondly, the Western Cape Provincial Parliament is unique amongst parliaments in South Africa in that you're sitting here in the Silicon Cape. This is a hotbed of innovation and economic stimulation. This is a hub for technology and startup culture, often led by young founder teams. The fourth industrial revolution is being birthed right in front of your eyes in the mother city. We are building the future, and along with that, positively impacting the lives of millions of South Africans through our technology. Work with us. Open up government contracts for homegrown Cape Town tech startups. Support your own before going corporate. Assist tech startups with public-private partnerships. And why? Because if this government wants to help people, working by yourselves, sure, you'll have the reach. But by developing your tech startup sector, you're enabling the enablers and compounding the scale of your reach. In the city, we are pushing the frontier with tech in recruiting, agriculture, finance, employment, and of course in housing. And we're really doing the work of building this economy. Collaboration will only maximize everyone's impact and allows you as a government to foster a sector that is producing work, that is making this country proud, not just fighting to survive, but honestly proud to be South African. And being proudly South African is something we all need right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Proctor. It seems you read the language of the speaker very well. When members are here, just look at them. They know that time is up. So thank you very much for your input and depth in the issues that you raised. May I now request that the representative from the Cape Winelands, I have already indicated the Cape Winelands, where it is, and that is Mr. Zukani Mechani, or Zukani Mechani. It's a member of Tomorrow Trust from Stellenbosch. Now I'm giving you the opportunity. Your 3 minutes starts now, sir.
All right. Thank you, Speaker. Thank you very much. Greetings to everyone. On my side, I would like to start with one thing. You know, the Provincial Parliament, they need to go back. We need to go back and build the trust, because young people have no trust, have no hope now in the leader that we have currently in Parliament, because we've been promised so many things. And I do not like to start with complaints and all of that, but at this point, I must be straightforward that we've been promised so many things, more especially as young people. We've been told that even where we're staying in Stellenbosch, we will have a youth desk. This has been said so many years ago, but those things do not take place, and young people have lost trust in our government now. So I think the Provincial Parliament, you need to establish now new structures that will not be led by only politicians only, because even the civil society needs to be involved in that. And collaboration is one thing that will help us go forward as young people of South Africa now. And if you want to hear the voice of young people, it must not only rely on people who belong to certain parties. We must rely on people on the ground, because most especially as for us as people who are working with young people. I work with young people. I will assist them with academics. We're also focusing on the mental health. We're investing more, and now I would like to invite the parliament to invest more on the mental health side, because young people are traumatized, and the pandemic has changed a lot of young people mindset. And now the many people that you find, young people, most of them now, they're complaining that there are no jobs, but there are jobs. There are opportunities out there, but no one ever trained them on how to create those opportunities for yourself. So the provincial parliament needs to go back and start their youth forums. And the youth forums must be coordinated now, and the provincial parliament must also be involved in those youth forums, not so that you don't have to have a once-off dialogue and then we think that we resolve the youth issues. And also, we can't have a one-day event and then we think that our issues are resolved. We need to have more of these dialogues, but now provincial parliament needs to go to the people, not expect people to go to them. And young people do not have access to technology currently. And with the pandemic now, it's not even easy for them to raise their issues. So the biggest question is, what are we doing now? Because we don't have the youth desk in our municipalities. So young people do not even know where to go to so that they address the issues. We have so many people that mainly come to young people and promise them 1, 2, 3 because elections are coming close. After election, they disappear up until next elections. So I urge the parliament now to be more consistent and to honor their promises to young people, because I always believe that the level of corruption is beyond repairs. But if we can start training the young people now we prepare them for this new normal, then things might change.
Mr. Mechane. Kunjani Parliament. That's how Parliament is. You've got time. Thank you very much. And I must say you've raised issues that are in the main, battling in the idea of a young person, what kind of a young person South Africa has, inequality and all of those. So as you raise them as young people, remember that this is not just a talk show, but I'm going to respond in summing up at the end. But at this stage, we now move to a representative from Central Karoo. Welcome back, Pabalo, Mr. Pabalo Hector, and your 3 minutes starts now.
I would like to thank the Speaker and Parliament yet again. It's a fact that there's a gap between the youth and Parliament, or between the youth and government as a whole. And I think the Western Cape provincial government should undertake a series of surveys on social medias and place suggestion boxes at schools, libraries, and other places of leisure where young people spend their time. Young people should also be put in place to make sure that the suggestions reach the Western Cape Parliament. And quarterly imbisos should also take place where young people discuss their struggles and challenges. They should be given a platform where they actually talk about what they're going through each and every day. This service and this imbisos should also not be just talk shops where young people just talk about their struggles and their challenges in life. But then Parliament should also come back to the young people with answers and actions. A system or a relationship where young people are held accountable and where young people can also hold government accountable should be created in order to close that gap. Government officials should also come to ground level to better understand the challenges that young people face. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hector. I noticed that you're very good with time, sir. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Now, we have a representative from the Garden Route, and that is Mr. Emmanuel Morsi, who is a student and the deputy president of South Cape TVET College in the Mossel Bay municipality. Now your time starts now, sir. 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Speaker, members of the House. I think I hope that I'm audible enough to get through to the audience. We must first acknowledge and send a special thank you to the PEO for facilitating this important initiative of gathering all these young innovative minds together. Now, Honorable Speaker, although we appreciate and acknowledge this initiative by the Provincial Parliament to have us in this August House, we are of the view that this meaningful and important occasion must not be the last. There are many key critical issues that are facing the youth, and these challenges, Honorable Speaker, are namely unemployment, which is forever rising, crime, teenage pregnancy, economic exclusion, and landlessness, just to name a few. Honorable Speaker, these challenges are not new, but for us to be addressing them in 2020 is a clear reflection of the incapable leadership that is at the top, which lacks the imagination to address youth-related issues. The Provincial House is a constitutionally established house and remains the only hope of ordinary citizens to hold the provincial executive to account. It is important that this institution should continue its work even during a national state of disaster. Parliament plays a pivotal role in ensuring accountability and provide oversight on the provincial executive. Honorable Speaker, it is not a mystery that absolute power corrupts, and in a democratic society, power must be overseen on how it's used. This is done to make sure all our social and democratic values, principles are upheld by those who are entrusted with position of responsibility. The Provincial Parliament must be open at all times and accessible to the general public. Democracy is categorized by the participation of citizens on key critical issues and involvement in decision-making. Therefore, it should remain undisputed that the Provincial Parliament must be open at all times, regardless of what the current status is. It is very sad to see how some political parties use the term youth trying to gain power and disappear when they get elected. Parliament is a leader in society and must draw the line of what is morally and ethically justifiable. All solutions and recommendations echoed by my colleague must be implemented and taken as proper steps in eradicating the social ills that are persecuting the youth. Honorable Speaker, for us as young people to address challenges or our challenges to find expression in this house must invite us so that we can be able to share ideas on how things should be done. However, our engagement must not be taken as a talk show whereby we provide suitable and practical solutions, yet no implementation of what we have alluded to is being done. This will only render this process very futile and also meaningless. I call upon the youth and all progressive forces to occupy all key strategic positions in public and in the private sector. Young people must stop being lazy.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Your time is up, and thanks for raising the substantive issues that you flagged. And now we move to the representative from the Overberg, Ms. Shade Williams, who's the deputy chairperson. I'm eating snacks there. Who's the deputy chairperson of the Cape Akalas Youth Council? Your time starts now, ma'am.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, honorable members. I'm Shade Williams from the Cape Akalas area in the Overberg district. The impact of COVID-19 on the VCPP, because the VCPP has a mandate to pass laws to the public and to ensure that these laws are clear and understood by the public and implemented in the communities, like the alert levels in the COVID-19 prevention. Oversight is important. The VCPP needs to ensure that administration members are doing what's expected of them and they follow their budgets. The VCPP must monitor the process. That's why the need to continue during the state of disaster is important. Because we are democratic, governance, accountability is important, where people are held responsible for their exits. As Lindiwe mentioned, the idea of making sources available for the youth. Technology is very important because it's where the future is going to. How can VCPP express the challenges of youth? Is by having these dialogues, webinars, where virtual meetings are held. Also bear in mind, not all youth have access to the internet or online platforms. Having youth representatives to encourage youth participation in outreach programs where youth can engage in. Encourage young people to become entrepreneurs is also very important. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this dialogue, and I hope that there will be many more interactions. And I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams, and we appreciate your contribution. Now we'll move to the representative from the West Coast District, and that is Mr. Andrew Stevens, who is the CEO of North Bay Fisheries. And he's from Matsikama municipality. And for those who don't know, it's the areas of Vredendal, as well as areas of Claver. So that is the Matsikama. Now we recognize you, Mr. Stevens. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker. Just a point of correction, Mr. Speaker, is that Matsikama is the last point before you enter the Northern Cape, Mr. Speaker. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, mine is only just to indicate that I fully agree to the previous speakers at large, Mr. Speaker. The one thing is that COVID-19 has shown us that anything is possible, Mr. Speaker. So from our point of where I'm sitting, Mr. Speaker, is that our challenge now as a country as a whole is that we are facing unemployment as a critical issue, Mr. Speaker. Just for example, Mr. Speaker, SABC is currently dwelling in that particular dispute in terms of releasing people in the unemployment category, Mr. Speaker. So from our point of view, in the Matsikama area, I have personally wrote an email to the president, to the minister, Patricia De Lille of DPW, for the leasing of land in order for us to implement an aquaculture project, which is 4 abalone farms within our area, which will contribute to the recovery plan in terms of unemployment, Mr. Speaker. We've been struggling a lot, and I don't want to elaborate much, but I want to allude to say that we need this parliament assistance, crucially so, in order for us to implement that. In fact, Mr. Speaker, just to highlight some points on that project, Mr. Speaker, is that I'm staying in Dorangbai, which is a small town within the Matsikama. We are not, the population is not more than 3,000, Mr. Speaker. So when we implement that particular project, Mr. Speaker, this town will be zero in terms of unemployment. So we will then escalate that in the whole of Matsikama, and even we can go to the Cedarburg, we go to the Silanaba municipality and import employment as such. Because one farm, particularly Israel, it is 1.5 million rand of worth. All right. So we want to build 4 of them, which come to 150 million, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, 150 million. So we are talking about 600 million, Mr. Speaker. So in order for us to minimize this unemployment rate going up on a daily basis, Mr. Speaker, we need your intervention in this process, Mr. Speaker. So I'm still awaiting responses. I've post COVID-19. I've engaged the president. I engaged Ms. Tisha Delel. So
thank you, sir. Thanks for your contribution.
Thank you, Chair.
We appreciate it. Thank you very
All right.
much. All right. Now, that was the last contribution. I'm glad, Mr. Stevens, you joined us because I really wanted to ensure that everybody gets the opportunity to speak in all these municipalities. And of course, that has been achieved. And thanks to the municipalities for making it possible. One of the things that I want to share is that last year we had a youth parliament and we took resolutions, and the youth parliament made an undertaking. In fact, I made an undertaking in that youth parliament that all those resolutions will be followed through. So what has since occurred is that the provincial government has responded to all of the issues that we raised, which emanated from that youth conference, from that youth parliament. And all the responses will be shared with you and other delegates that were part of that youth parliament. And we'll share this information with the municipalities so that they can disseminate for those who can't print. But the information is available. And I'm saying this because it is important that we don't just talk, but also that whatever that has been shared, if there are areas that need to be followed through and there are interventions that are necessary, that it does in fact take place. So this is what we're trying to achieve here. Secondly, with this dialogue, because this is a dialogue, we're not going to take resolutions here, but the issues that have been raised have been taken stock of, and the Ms. Fouchier, just highlight to me how are you going to proceed with that. Ms. Fouchier, for your information, she's one of the people that make me look good. If you say the speaker is doing very well as the speaker, you must know that I've got a wonderful team around me that make me look good in the work that I do as the speaker and that make this parliament to look good. So she's the director of communications and public engagement and public education and. Now over to you, Ms. Fouchier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Thank you, Chair. You are too kind. I think everyone here has a passion for connecting with the people that the Western Cape Provincial Parliament represents. So what we do from a place of passion. What we will do, and I think this will answer a lot of the questions that some of the delegates had, and maybe some of the questions that even remained unasked, is this meeting is recorded. You'll see Ms. Madeleine Gauzy there in the corner, slaving away. What we will do following this dialogue, Honourable Speaker, is that we will summarise all the points that were raised by the delegates, all the recommendations that were made. I was very impressed with how many people actually came with solutions. That's great. All of that will be summarised, and we will submit a report to the Office of the Speaker to say, coming from the youth dialogue, these are the things that the young people brought to us. And the Speaker will from there table it in the House, and all the various members and ministers will be made aware of what these recommendations are. And from there, through the Office of the Speaker, we will follow up regularly on the implementation or what actions are being taken by the government, by the relevant departments to address some of these issues. It's very important for us as well, Honourable Speaker, to close the loop. So we have everyone's email addresses and contact details, and we will then get back to you to say what the progress is that has been made. So the people who attended last year's virtual youth dialogue, I saw a few of them, Jalaza Bosman, Chanel de Villiers, a few of the people who participated last year. A report is on its way to you to explain to you what the suggestions that you have made, how that is being addressed and followed up through the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. Speaker, I hope that addresses your question. Over to you. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fouchier. It does. I wanted it to come not from a politician, because a lot has been said about politicians in today's session. One person even suggested that it's not only politicians that are providing leadership. And that is exactly what we don't want. That's why you are here, that our young people, civil society organizations must be part of the solution. We cannot expect solutions to come only from the state, because a state is just but one of the players. There are three most important players in the work that we do. It is the state, and it is the private sector, and it is the community people. So without which the tripartite relationship must be firm, and it must be built on trust and built on collaboration. That mindset is very important. So that is what we're trying to achieve. You don't press your mic if the speaker is speaking. Thank you. So what happens is that with the outcome of last year, the resolutions that were taken last year by the Youth Parliament, all of those will be shared as per my earlier input. And then the one report of today's session will be shared with all of you, but the areas that need attention will be able to, as part of tabling that report, each committee, each chairperson of the standing committee and members of parliament individually will be able to take the issues that needs to be followed up with their own respective standing committees, which can also be part of their agenda. And then they deal with the departments and the executive members, the ministers, in order to ensure that those issues are attended to. So that is how the approach will be, and it's not going to fall in the wayside. Lastly, let me thank the Honorable Premier, thank the Honorable Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Chief Whip, and the Honorable members who assisted us here by introducing the various topics. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate your interest in the issues that affect young people, because this is not just about young people. It is about the future leaders of this country and the future leaders of this province, and that is very important. I'm very impressed with your attitude by joining and not trivializing the role of young people and their participation in the social development, and of course in the economic development, and of course in ensuring that we've got a much more equal, safe and just society. So thank you very much for that, Honorable Premier, as the first citizen of this province, for taking young people serious, and the honorable members. Lastly, I would like to request that we all rise. There is an unfortunate incident that have occurred. We lost one of the delegates on the 14th of November, Mr. Loveline Matthews from the Cape Akalas municipality sadly passed away, and that then rendered him unable to be here with us. And we hope that the family, during this sad and tragic period, that they may find solace in the love of the Lord. And we wish Loveline that as this moment he was able to see us, that we did not fail him, and that we're able to continue, and that his spirit is with us, and that he can rest peacefully, that the dialogue continued and flagged the issues that affect young people. And we wish him to rest peacefully forever. Thank you very much. Let us all rise. Thank you. May his soul rest in peace. We also wish to extend condolences to the community of Cape Akalas, the young people, and to the municipality of Cape Akalas. Now, this brings us to the end. I'm going to request each one of you who are present here in the hybrid venue, and that is the chamber, to join me for a photo shoot. I'm so sorry to the young people who are not here that you are unable to join me for the photo shoot, but next time we hope that it will be physical, because the last year's youth parliament was physical. So next day it won't be a dialogue. We'll convene a youth parliament again, and because we are hoping that we can all be able to hug and be able to be together. We want that, we miss that, and we hope that God will help us to get there sooner. So thank you very much. May God bless you all. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.